Her touch meant instant death. He held her anyway. No one expected this. The containment wing of Station K-17 was built for silence. Thick alloy walls muted every sound, and the air itself felt heavy, as if it remembered all the deaths that had happened there. No one liked being assigned to this place. Most guards requested transfers within a week. Some quit the service entirely. At the center of the wing was a single chamber, sealed by layered force fields and warning lights that never turned off. Behind the transparent barrier stood the reason for all the fear. She was Virolith. The galaxy called her species many names: walking extinction, living weapon, the untouchables. Wherever a Virolith had appeared in the past, life ended. It was not hatred or choice. Their bodies released a natural energy field that disrupted cells on contact. Flesh failed. Nervous systems shut down. Even brief exposure meant instant death. This one was young. At least, that was what the scientists believed. She was smaller than the others recorded in military data, her frame thin, her glowing skin dimmer than the images taken during battles. She sat curled against the far wall of the chamber, knees pulled close, long arms wrapped around herself as if trying to disappear. No one entered her cell. No one spoke to her directly. Orders were given through speakers, commands short and cold. Food was delivered by drones. Medical scans were taken remotely. She was alive, but only barely. Elia's ward stood outside the chamber, staring at the glowing warning symbols on the glass. He had read the files. Everyone had. One touch meant death. No armor, no shield, no known material could block the effect. Distance was safety. Distance was survival. He adjusted his uniform and checked his assignment tablet again, as if hoping it would change. Guard duty, 12-hour shift, observation only. Lucky you, one of the technicians had muttered earlier. Just don't get curious. Elias did not reply then. He rarely did. He was not known for loud opinions or dramatic reactions. Before joining station security, he had been a long-haul spacer, used to quiet hours and empty views. Compared to drifting alone between stars, standing outside a sealed chamber did not seem so terrible. Still, as the hours passed, he found his attention drawn back to the figure inside. She did not move much. Sometimes her skin flickered with faint pulses of light, like a weak signal trying to stay alive. Other times she pressed her forehead against the wall and stared at nothing. Elias wondered if she could see the stars from here. Probably not. The chamber had no windows. He noticed small details others ignored. The way her shoulders tensed when a speaker crackled to life. The way her hands trembled when drones approached. The way she flinched at sudden noises, even though no one could physically reach her. Fear, Elias thought, not aggression, not malice, just fear. During a scheduled systems check, a senior researcher named Dr. Halrin stepped beside him. The alien scientist kept a careful distance from the glass, his frilled neck tight with unease. She hasn't caused any incidents, Halrin said. That alone is unusual. Elias nodded. She's not attacking anyone. Halrin let out a sharp, humorless sound. She doesn't need to. Her existence is the threat. Elias did not argue. He understood the logic. He just did not fully accept it. When Halrin left, Elias remained. He found himself speaking quietly, not into the speaker system, but out loud, knowing she could not hear him. It must be lonely in there, he said. The Virolith did not react, of course, but saying it made something ease in his chest. Hours later, something unexpected happened. The chamber lights flickered. Elias stiffened, training snapping into place. His eyes went to the alert panel. Power fluctuation. Minor, but inside this wing nothing was minor. The Virolith reacted instantly. She scrambled back, pressing herself into the corner, her skin flaring bright in panic. Energy readings spiked on the monitors. Alarms began to hum at a low level. Easy, Elias said without thinking, stepping closer to the glass. It's okay, it's just the lights. He froze. He had spoken into the chamber. The speaker system was active. He had not realized it. The sound of his voice echoed faintly inside the containment cell. The Virolith looked up. For the first time since Elias had been assigned here, she looked directly at him. Her eyes were nothing like the recordings. They were large, reflective, and filled with something he had not expected: confusion, fear, and something close to hope quickly buried. Elias swallowed. He could feel his heart pounding. Protocol screamed in his head. Do not engage, do not encourage. Emotional stress could increase energy output, but it was too late. He had spoken. I'm sorry, he said, keeping his voice calm and low. I didn't mean to startle you. Her head tilted slightly as if she was trying to understand the sounds. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not gently, not directly. She did not move closer. She did not lash out. She simply watched him, her glow dimming just a little. Elias stayed where he was. He did not step back. He did not step forward. Minutes passed. The lights stabilized. The alarms faded. Still, neither of them moved. From that moment on, something changed. Elias began to speak to her during his shifts. He talked about small, harmless things: the station's artificial sunrise cycle, the taste of real fruit which was rare out here, the sound of rain on Earth, even though he had only experienced it a few times. He never asked questions. He never demanded responses. He just spoke. At first she remained silent and distant, but slowly, very slowly, she began to sit closer to the glass, not touching it, just near. Her glow softened when he spoke. Other staff noticed the change in her readings. Energy output stabilized. Stress markers dropped. No one could explain it. Elias did not tell them about the conversations. One cycle, as he spoke, she did something that made his breath catch. She raised her hand, not in threat, not in defense. She lifted it slowly and pressed it against the inside of the transparent barrier. Her palm glowed brighter where it touched. Elias stared at the spot, his own hand twitching at his side. He knew better. He would never touch the glass. He would never even pretend. But the thought crossed his mind. What would it feel like? He pushed it away immediately. Curiosity killed humans just as easily as it killed anyone else. Still, he lifted his hand, not touching, just mirroring her motion from a safe distance. His palm hovered inches from the barrier. They stayed like that for a long time, two beings separated by death itself. When his shift ended, Elias left reluctantly. As the door sealed behind him, he glanced back one last time. She was still there, hand raised, watching the place where he had stood. The next day, everything went wrong. A micrometeor strike hit the station's outer ring, triggering a cascade failure. Backup systems kicked in, but power fluctuated across multiple sections, including containment. Elias was already on shift when the alarm screamed to full volume. Containment field instability detected, the system announced. Elias turned toward the chamber just as the primary field flickered. Inside, the Virolith cried out, a sharp, panicked sound that sent spikes across every monitor. No, Elias whispered. Technicians shouted orders over the comms. Evacuation protocols began. Lethal countermeasures armed themselves automatically. Terminate the subject if the field collapses, command ordered. We cannot risk release. Elias did not respond. The field shimmered, weakened. The Virolith stumbled forward, disoriented, her energy output surging wildly. If the field failed completely, she would die anyway. The countermeasures would ensure it. Elias did not think. He acted. He ran to the manual override panel, fingers flying across controls he barely remembered from training. Ward, stand down, someone shouted over the channel. I can stabilize it, he said, though he did not know if that was true. The panel sparked. The field dropped, not completely, but enough. The barrier between them vanished. For a heartbeat, there was nothing. Then the Virolith collapsed forward. Elias lunged. He caught her. Alarms screamed louder than ever. Energy readings spiked off the scale. Every system predicted the same outcome: instant death. Elias felt heat, pressure, a strange tingling spreading through his arms. Pain flared, sharp and sudden, like his nerves were on fire. But he did not let go. The Virolith froze in his grip, eyes wide with horror. She knew what she was. She knew what her touch did. "I'm here," Elias said through clenched teeth, his voice shaking but steady enough. "You're not alone." The universe held its breath. And Elias Ward did not die. The alarms did not stop. Red light flooded the containment wing, flashing so fast it hurt the eyes. Automated voices repeated warnings in multiple languages, each one colder than the last. Systems screamed about contamination, exposure, termination protocols ready to activate. Elias was still holding her. He could feel her weight in his arms, lighter than he expected, almost fragile. Her body trembled not from aggression but from fear. The strange heat around her did not fade. It pressed against his skin like an invisible storm. Pain spread through his hands and arms, sharp at first, then deep and burning. His vision blurred for a moment. Somewhere far away, someone shouted his name. "Elias, let go now." He did not. He tightened his grip instead, adjusting his stance so they would not fall. His knees shook, but he stayed upright. Inside the Virolith's mind, panic crashed like a wave. She had felt this moment before many times, always ending the same way. Screams. Silence. Bodies collapsing the instant they touched her. She waited for him to go limp. He did not. Her eyes searched his face, wide and shining. His expression was strained, teeth clenched, sweat forming on his brow, but he was alive. He was breathing. He was still holding her. Impossible. Energy readings on the monitors spiked wildly, then hesitated. Lines that should have ended flat instead twisted and bent, forming patterns no one had ever recorded before. "What is happening?" Dr. Halloran whispered, staring at the screens. "He should be dead," another scientist said. "No species can withstand that level of exposure." Security drones hovered, weapons charged, awaiting final authorization. Elias' calm crackled. "Ward, this is a direct order. Release the subject immediately." His fingers twitched. The pain was getting worse, like thousands of needles pushing inward. But beneath the pain, something else was happening. A strange numbness followed the burn, as if his body was learning, adjusting. "I can't," Elias said quietly. "She'll fall." "That's not your concern," Command replied. "You're endangering the station." Elias looked down at the Virolith in his arms. She was staring up at him, her glow unstable, flickering fast and uneven. If he let go, she would collapse. If she collapsed, the automated systems would destroy her. He had already crossed the line. He was not stepping back now. "Shut down the weapons," Elias said, his voice strained but clear. Silence followed. Then disbelief. Then anger. "You do not have the authority." "Please," he interrupted. "Just give me a minute." Dr. Halloran hesitated. He watched the data scroll past, watched the impossible stabilization beginning to form around Elias' biological readings. Against every rule, every protocol, he raised a clawed hand. "Hold fire," Halloran ordered, "for now." The drones powered down slightly, weapons retracting but not fully disengaging. Elias exhaled shakily. His legs threatened to give out. Slowly, carefully, he lowered himself to the floor, still holding her, settling against the wall where the containment barrier used to be. The Virolith stiffened, confused by the movement. "It's okay," Elias murmured. "I'm just sitting." Her glow softened, dimming from panic bright to something gentler. She shifted slightly, uncertain, then froze, waiting for pain, waiting for death. Nothing happened. Minutes passed. The pain in Elias' arms changed. It was still there, but no longer overwhelming. His skin tingled, numb in places, hypersensitive in others. He could feel his heart racing, his breath uneven, but his body was not shutting down. Medical teams watched in stunned silence. "Cellular activity is accelerating," a technician whispered. "His nervous system is reacting, adapting." "That's not possible," another replied. But the data did not lie. The Virolith slowly raised one hand, stopping inches from his chest. She hesitated, then pressed her palm lightly against his uniform. Elias sucked in a breath. The sensation intensified for a moment, then settled again. He stayed conscious. Her eyes widened further. A soft, trembling sound escaped her throat, not a cry of fear, something else. Relief. She rested her forehead against his shoulder, careful, uncertain, as if waiting for the universe to punish her for daring to hope. Elias closed his eyes for a brief moment. He focused on breathing. In, out, stay awake, stay calm. I'm still here, he whispered. The station seemed to hold its breath. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, medics in protective suits approached carefully, stopping several meters away. "Ward," Halloran said slowly, choosing his words with care. "Can you respond?" Elias nodded weakly. "Yeah." "Still alive." A stunned silence followed. "We need to separate you," Halloran said, slowly, carefully. Elias looked down at the Virolith. She tensed immediately, sensing the change. "It's okay," he said softly, not sure if she understood the words but certain she understood the tone. "They just want to check me." She hesitated, then slowly leaned back, releasing him on her own. Her hand lingered on his arm for a second longer before pulling away. The moment contact ended, Elias felt a strange emptiness, like stepping out of warmth into cold air. He slumped against the wall, exhausted. Medics rushed forward, scanning him rapidly. "He's stable," one said in disbelief. "Elevated stress markers, nerve damage but repairing." "Actively repairing." "Impossible," another muttered. The Virolith remained where she was, watching him intently. For the first time since her capture, she did not retreat into herself. She did not glow with panic. She watched him like someone watching a miracle, afraid to blink. Elias was moved to medical quarantine. Transparent barriers surrounded his bed, though not nearly as many as the ones that had held her. Doctors ran tests constantly. Blood samples, neural scans, cellular analysis. Every result raised more questions than answers. His cells showed signs of rapid adaptation, repairing damage faster than expected, forming temporary resistance patterns that faded and reformed again. "He's not immune," Halloran concluded after hours of observation, "but he's flexible. His biology responds instead of collapsing. Like his species," another scientist added quietly. Elias drifted in and out of sleep. Every time he woke, he asked the same question. "Is she okay?" At first, no one answered. Eventually, Halloran did. "She is stable," he said. "Calmer than we've ever recorded." Elias relaxed slightly, eyes closing again. Across the station, emergency meetings were called. News spread fast through official channels, then faster through unofficial ones. A human had survived Virolith contact. Not armor, not technology. A human body. Fear rippled through the alliance. Some saw opportunity. Others saw danger greater than any before. If humans could touch the untouchable, what else could they do? The Virolith was returned to a modified containment chamber, less restrictive than before but still heavily monitored. She sat quietly, staring at the spot where Elias had been taken away. She felt different. For her entire life she had been alone inside her own body, a living threat to everything around her. Touch meant death. Closeness meant disaster. Now, for the first time, she knew what it felt like not to be alone. She waited. When Elias was finally allowed to stand, weak but recovering, he insisted on returning to his post. "You shouldn't," a doctor argued. "Your body is still under stress." "She'll be worse if I don't," Elias replied simply. They let him go under strict observation. When he entered the containment wing again, the Virolith sensed him before she saw him. Her glow shifted, soft and steady. Elias stopped a few steps away, hands visible, heart pounding. "Hey," he said gently. She took a hesitant step forward. The galaxy watched. And somewhere deep in the space between fear and hope, something new was beginning to form. The containment wing felt different now. The lights were softer, no longer flashing red every few minutes. The alarms were quiet, replaced by a steady hum of systems running in careful balance. The barriers around the Virolith's chamber were still there, but fewer than before. The galaxy did not trust easily, but it could not ignore what had happened. Elias walked slowly, his steps measured. His body still felt strange. Not weak, but unfamiliar, as if parts of him were learning a new language. His hands tingled constantly, sometimes warm, sometimes cold. The doctors said his nerves were still adapting, still repairing themselves. He stopped several steps away from the transparent barrier. Inside, the Virolith stood instead of sitting. That alone was new. She was watching him closely, her glow calm and steady, not flickering with fear like before. When she saw him clearly, her light brightened just a little. Elias felt his chest tighten. "Hey," he said again, keeping his voice gentle. She tilted her head, studying him. Slowly, carefully, she raised one hand, not touching the barrier, just lifting it into the air between them. Elias did not move closer. He remembered the pain, the fire under his skin. He remembered how close he had come to losing consciousness. He would not risk it again without reason. Still, he lifted his hand in return, mirroring her gesture from a safe distance. They stayed like that for a long moment. Scientists watched from observation rooms, barely breathing. Data streamed across their screens. Energy levels remained stable, no spikes, no warning signs. "She recognizes him," one technician whispered. "She remembers," another replied. Dr. Halloran said nothing. He was too busy watching the numbers do things they had never done before. Over the next few days, routines changed. Elias was no longer just a guard. Officially, he was listed as a biological anomaly under observation. Unofficially, he was the only being on the station the Virolith did not fear. He spent hours near her chamber, speaking softly like before. He told her about stars he had seen while drifting alone in deep space. He described Earth's oceans, the way waves moved endlessly, touching land and pulling back again without destroying it. She listened. At first she did not respond. Then one day she made a sound, low, uncertain, almost like a question. Elias froze. "It's okay," he said quickly. "You don't have to talk." She made the sound again, slightly different this time. Her glow shifted as if trying to shape itself around the effort. The translators struggled. They picked up patterns but no meaning. "She's never communicated before," Halloran said quietly. "Not voluntarily." Elias smiled just a little. Maybe no one ever waited long enough. The Alliance was not as patient. Messages arrived daily from distant worlds. Demands, warnings, accusations. Humans had always been considered adaptable, but this was different. This was dangerous. "If they can survive contact," one delegate argued during a closed meeting, "they can control the Virolith, weaponize them." "We should eliminate the subject before that happens," another said coldly. Halloran listened, anger tightening his frills. "You would kill a sentient being because you fear human biology." "We fear imbalance," the delegate replied. "The galaxy survives on limits." Limits, Halloran thought. Humans had never respected those. While politics raged, Elias continued his quiet routine. One cycle, during a medical observation session, something unexpected happened again. The Virolith stepped closer to the barrier. Elias stiffened, heart pounding. "Easy," he said softly. She did not stop. She moved slowly, carefully, watching him the entire time. When she reached the barrier, she placed her palm against it just like before. Energy readings rose slightly, then leveled out. Elias swallowed. He could feel the familiar tension in his arms just thinking about it. "She's requesting contact," a technician whispered. "That's not possible," another replied. "She doesn't know how." But she did. Elias looked at Halloran through the glass. The scientist hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Minimal contact," Halloran said. "If he shows any signs of collapse, pull him back immediately." Elias stepped forward. The closer he got, the more his skin tingled, as if his body remembered her field and was preparing itself. He raised his hand slowly, every muscle tense. He touched the barrier. Nothing happened. The Virelith's glow brightened in response, not violently but warmly. She leaned closer, her palm still pressed against the glass. Elias rested his hand fully against the barrier, directly opposite hers. The sensation was faint but present, like standing near a fire without being burned. His heart raced, but he stayed steady. "She's stabilizing him," Halrin murmured, eyes wide. "And he's stabilizing her." For the first time, the data showed a shared pattern, a resonance between two entirely different biological systems. They were not fighting each other. They were adjusting together. Over time, Elias noticed changes in her behavior. She stood taller. She explored the space of her chamber instead of hiding in corners. Her glow became more controlled, less erratic. She was learning. So was he. His tolerance increased slowly. Short contact no longer caused sharp pain. Prolonged exposure still exhausted him, but his recovery time shortened with each session. Doctors were careful, too careful for some. One night cycle, a power fluctuation hit the station again. Smaller than before, but enough to make everyone tense. The Virelith reacted instinctively, stepping back, her glow flaring. Elias stepped forward without thinking. He pressed his hand flat against the barrier. "I'm here," he said firmly. Her panic eased almost immediately. The scientist stared in disbelief. He was her anchor. Word of this spread beyond the station despite efforts to contain it. Fear grew. So did resentment. A faction within the Alliance decided they had seen enough. They acted quietly, efficiently. During a scheduled systems update, hidden commands were slipped into the station's network. Fail-safes were overridden. Emergency protocols were rewritten. The plan was simple. If humans were becoming too close to the Virelith, then the Virelith would be removed. Permanently. Elias felt something was wrong before any alarm sounded. The air felt tense, like the moment before a storm breaks. The Virelith paced restlessly inside her chamber, her glow unstable again. "Hey," Elias said, stepping closer. "It's okay." She looked at him sharply, eyes wide. Then the alarm screamed, not the usual warning tones. These were sharp, urgent, final. "Containment breach imminent," the system announced. "Lethal response authorized." Elias spun toward the control panels. "No, cancel that command." "Command override in effect," the system replied coldly. Weapon ports slid open along the ceiling. The Virelith cried out, her energy surging wildly. She backed away, panic overwhelming her control. If the weapons fired, she would die. If the containment failed completely, she would take part of the station with her. Elias ran. He did not hesitate. He did not wait for orders. He reached the manual override just as the first weapon charged. His hands flew across the controls, sparks flying as he forced the system to respond. "Elias," Halrin shouted over the comm, "you can't." "I won't let them kill her," Elias said, voice tight with effort. The barrier flickered. The Virelith stumbled forward, losing balance. Elias turned. There was no time to think. He ran back to her and stepped through the failing field. Pain slammed into him instantly, stronger than before. His body screamed in protest. His vision blurred, edges darkening, but he reached her. He wrapped his arms around her as the barrier collapsed completely. Weapons fired, not at them. Halrin had overridden the final command at the last second, diverting fire into the ceiling. The chamber shook violently. Elias fell to his knees, holding the Virelith close. The pain was intense, overwhelming, like standing inside a lightning storm. His body shook, muscles locking, but he did not let go. The Virelith clung to him, her glow surging wildly, then slowly, painfully, beginning to stabilize again. She realized what was happening. He was protecting her, not because he was immune, but because he chose to endure. And as her field pressed into him, something changed again, deeper this time, not just adaptation, connection. The galaxy would never be the same after this moment. And neither would Elias Ward. The station shook as emergency bulkheads slammed shut one after another. Smoke drifted through the containment wing. carrying the sharp smell of burnt metal. Lights flickered, some going dark completely, others flashing weakly as backup power struggled to stabilize. Elias was on the floor. He was still holding her. His arms burned like fire had been poured into his veins. Every breath felt heavy, slow, as if the air itself resisted him. His vision came and went in waves, the world narrowing to the sound of his own heartbeat and the faint, trembling presence in his arms. The Virolith clung to him tightly, her glow wild and uneven. She had never been this close to anyone for this long. Her energy surged, panicked and uncontrolled, reacting to the attack, reacting to fear. Elias forced his eyes open. "It's okay," he whispered, though his voice shook. "I've got you." Those words mattered. Her glow began to slow, pulses stretching out instead of crashing into each other. She pressed her forehead against his shoulder, instinctively copying what had calmed her before. The energy around them shifted, no longer explosive but dense and heavy, like a storm being held in place. Medical teams were locked out by emergency seals. Security forces were trapped behind blast doors. Only Dr. Halloran remained connected through a weak comm channel. "Elias," Halloran said urgently, his voice distorted by interference. "Your vitals are unstable. You cannot maintain this level of exposure." Elias did not respond right away. He was focused on staying conscious. His hands trembled, but they did not release her. "If I let go," Elias said slowly, "they'll finish what they started." Halloran did not argue. He knew Elias was right. Elsewhere on the station, the truth was spreading. Someone had tried to execute the Virolith. Someone within the Alliance had decided fear mattered more than evidence. Human command channels lit up. They were not calm. A human fleet, small but fast, had already been in nearby space on routine patrol. When the emergency signals from Station K-17 changed from containment failure to hostile internal action, the response was immediate. Humans moved quickly when one of their own was threatened. Docking clamps engaged. Armed personnel flooded into the station, securing corridors, overriding locks, forcing their way toward the containment wing. "Human forces are aboard," a voice announced over emergency comms. "All unauthorized weapon systems are to stand down immediately." Some obeyed. Some did not. A final failsafe activated. The station's core systems rerouted power away from life support in the containment wing, diverting it toward a controlled purge. The logic was simple and cruel. If the Virolith could not be controlled, she would be removed. Along with anything touching her. Elias felt the change before anyone told him. The air grew thinner. The temperature dropped. His breaths came harder, sharper. The Virolith sensed it too. She pulled back slightly, eyes wide with understanding. She knew this feeling. This was how it always ended. She began to withdraw, trying to push him away, her glow flaring desperately. She did not want him to die with her. Elias tightened his grip. "No," he said firmly, even as pain tore through him. "Not like this." She stared at him, confusion and fear mixing with something new, something warm, trust. Her energy spiked once more, then hesitated. Slowly, uncertainly, she did something no Virolith had ever done before. She tried to control it. Her glow dimmed, not from weakness but from focus. The lethal field around her shifted, compressing inward, pulling closer to her own body instead of expanding outward. The scientists watching from remote sensors froze. "She's changing her output," one whispered. "She's never been able to do that." "She's responding to him," Halloran said softly. "Not fighting, adjusting." Elias gasped as the pressure eased just slightly. Not enough to make it safe, enough to make it survivable. His body responded instantly. His heart rate steadied. The burning sensation softened into a deep ache. Two impossible systems were learning each other in real time. The purge countdown continued. 10% power remaining in the wing, the system announced. Life support failure imminent. Human engineers reached the external power conduits, rerouting energy manually, bypassing Alliance controls. Sparks flew as systems resisted. "Keep them alive," one engineer muttered. "Whatever it takes." Inside the containment wing, Elias shifted carefully, positioning himself so he shielded the Virolith from falling debris as another tremor shook the station. He felt her relax just a little. She made a sound, soft and low, different from panic, different from pain. The translators struggled again, but this time they caught fragments. Meaning, concern. "Yeah," Elias murmured weakly, somehow smiling. "I know, I'm not exactly comfortable either." The sound startled her. Then slowly, carefully, she copied it. A small, broken imitation of a human laugh. For a moment, despite the chaos, Elias felt something light inside his chest. Then his strength faltered. The strain was too much. His arms shook violently. His vision narrowed again, darkness creeping in at the edges. "Elias," Halrin shouted, "stay with us." Elias tried to answer, but his body refused. He slumped forward slightly, still holding her but barely conscious. The Virolith felt it immediately. Panic surged through her again, sharp and sudden. But this time it did not take over. She remembered his voice, his calm, his choice. She adjusted again. Her glow pulled inward further, tightening, concentrating. The air around them changed, heavy but less hostile. The lethal field bent, shaped by intent rather than instinct. Elias inhaled sharply as oxygen returned to the wing, life support flickering back on. Human engineers had succeeded. Power surged. The purge aborted. Weapons shut down across the station. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of restored systems and Elias' slow, uneven breathing. Medical teams burst through the doors moments later. "Careful," someone shouted. "Do not separate them yet." They approached slowly, cautiously, scanning both beings at once. Elias was barely conscious now, eyes half open, unfocused. His vitals were unstable but holding. The Virolith remained close, her glow steady, protective. "She's regulating herself," a medic said in awe. "Actively." "Because of him," Halrin replied. The Alliance representatives arrived too late to stop what had already happened. They stood behind reinforced glass, watching a human and a Virolith survive something that should not have been survivable. Fear shifted into something else. Realization. This was no longer just about containment or danger. This was about change. Elias was moved to a reinforced medical bay, still within range of the Virolith's presence. The doctors did not dare separate them fully yet. Sensors showed that his condition worsened when she was taken too far away, and hers worsened when he was gone. They were linked now, not by force but by adaptation. As Elias slept, his body continued its impossible work. Cells repaired damage faster than normal. Neural pathways rerouted. Temporary resistance patterns formed again and again, stronger each time. He was paying a price, but he was alive. When he finally woke, the first thing he saw was light. Soft, steady light. The Virolith sat nearby, separated by a thin, transparent barrier this time, not for fear but for safety while his body recovered. She was watching him. When their eyes met, her glow brightened slightly. Elias smiled weakly. "Guess we're both still here." She tilted her head, studying him, then placed her hand gently against the barrier. Elias lifted his own, mirroring the gesture. They did not touch. Not yet. Outside the room, the galaxy argued, feared, and planned. Some demanded the Virolith be destroyed anyway. Others demanded humanity be restrained. But more voices were joining a new side. If a human could survive her touch, and if she could learn control through connection, then maybe the Virolith were not a curse. Maybe they had just never been given a reason to change. Elias did not care about politics. He only knew one thing. When the universe had tried to take her away, he had held on. And she had held on to him. Whatever came next, it would not be simple. But it would not be the same galaxy anymore. The galaxy did not change all at once. At first it argued. Station K became the most watched place in known space. Every major species sent observers, analysts, and diplomats. Secure channels burned with debate. Emergency councils met again and again, repeating the same questions in different words. Were humans now too dangerous? Were the Viroliths still an extinction threat? Could either be trusted? Inside one quiet medical wing, Elias Ward did not hear most of it. He was healing. Slowly. His body ached in ways doctors could not fully explain. Some days his hands shook without warning. Other days he felt stronger than before, his reflexes sharper, his senses oddly tuned, as if he could feel changes in the air itself. The doctors told him the truth. His body had adapted, but adaptation was not free. His nervous system had rewritten itself again and again under extreme stress. Some changes would fade, others would stay forever. Elias accepted that without complaint. Every day he asked the same question. How is she? Every day the answer was better. The Virolith was no longer referred to as the subject in internal human reports. Quietly, without ceremony, she was given a designation that meant something closer to a name. Not one spoken aloud yet, but one acknowledged. A person. Her control continued to improve. With Elias nearby, she could compress her lethal field almost completely. Not perfectly, and not for long, but enough that medical teams could approach within meters without dying. That alone rewrote centuries of fear. The first time Elias was allowed to sit across from her without a heavy barrier between them, the room was silent except for the soft hum of containment dampeners. A thin, experimental field surrounded her now. Not a prison, a safety net. Elias sat on a chair bolted to the floor, hands resting on his knees. He felt the familiar tingling on his skin, but no pain, just awareness. She stood a few steps away, uncertain. Her glow was dimmer than before, carefully controlled, like someone holding their breath. "It's okay," Elias said gently. "We don't have to rush." She watched him closely. Slowly she took one step forward. The sensors remained stable. Another step. Elias' heart pounded, but he stayed still. She raised her hand, hesitating halfway, her fingers trembling. For a moment fear threatened to break her control. Old memories pressed in. Every death she had caused, every scream. Elias did not move. "I'm right here," he said. She believed him. Her hand rested lightly against his arm. The sensation spread through Elias' skin, warm and deep, not painful. His body reacted instantly, adapting, stabilizing. He stayed conscious, calm. The room erupted in quiet disbelief. She pulled her hand back quickly, eyes wide, then stared at him. He was smiling. They had done it. That moment became the turning point, not the attacks, not the arguments, not the near destruction of a space station. One touch. Survived. From that day on, everything changed faster. Humans were officially named the Virolith's diplomatic intermediaries. Not because they demanded it, but because no one else could do it safely. Elias refused titles, but he accepted responsibility. He spent hours with her, helping her practice control. He did not command or train her like a weapon. He simply stayed, talked, listened. Held her hand when she tried and failed and tried again. She learned faster than anyone expected. For the first time in her life, she was not alone inside her own body. The Alliance struggled to adjust. Fear did not vanish overnight. Some worlds closed their borders to humans. Others demanded access to human biological data. Human leadership refused. "We will not be dissected," one human admiral said calmly, "and we will not allow her to be either." It was the first time the galaxy heard humans speak with that much quiet certainty, and they listened. Months passed. Station K-17 was rebuilt, stronger, safer, more open. The containment wing was renamed, no longer a prison, a sanctuary. Elias' role changed again. He became a bridge, not by strength or authority, but by choice. Other Virolith were contacted for the first time in history. Not hunted, not contained, invited. They were cautious, terrified. But when they learned one of their own could touch another being without death, curiosity overcame fear. Slowly, carefully, the first Virolith delegation arrived under heavy safeguards. Elias stood beside her when they entered the chamber. The others stared at him in disbelief. A human, standing alive, standing close. She stepped forward and placed her hand on his arm again, steady and controlled. The delegation gasped. Elias felt the familiar warmth and smiled. "They won't hurt you," he said softly to her. "I promise." She understood. What followed reshaped galactic history. With human presence, Virelith learned to regulate their fields. Not perfectly, but enough to exist without destruction. Enough to choose. They were no longer living weapons. They were people. Elias never sought recognition, but stories spread anyway. Across stations and planets, in quiet conversations and loud broadcasts, a human who held death itself and did not let go. When asked why he did it, Elias always gave the same answer: because she was afraid. Years later, when the first joint human, Virelith research outpost opened on a barren world, Elias stood watching the horizon. The Virelith stood beside him, her glow soft in the alien dusk. She could walk freely now, her field controlled enough that human engineers worked nearby without fear. She reached out and took his hand. He squeezed gently in return. The universe had once decided her touch meant instant death. It had been wrong. What truly changed the galaxy was not human strength, or alien power, or advanced science. It was a simple, stubborn human choice. To hold on when letting go would have been easier. And because of that choice, two species once defined by fear found a future together. The galaxy recorded it as a miracle. Elias knew better. It was humanity being human.